What's up, everybody? John Hoover, AllSooners.com, along with Ryan Chapman, Randall Sweet. Post-game podcast is here. This is episode 210. I checked this time. Episode 210.
Wait. Does that mean that the post-game pod for you Texas is going to be episode 212?
Yes. Oh!
Oklahoma will win that game. You heard it here first.
Probably by a lot. 212 is the temperature at which water boils. It's also the number that Brent Venables and his staff have stolen, appropriated for this team. What's the slogan?
He does.
To affect change, you have to push to 212 degrees. Yep.
That's what the 212 Foundation is, and that's what the weird online, Uber online Brian Bosworth pregame video is.
Yeah.
If you happen to keep track of all the weirdness, then you understand what 1 more degree means. It's 212 degrees.
Listen, I can tell you we're at 212 right now here in this room because we posted, 24 pieces of content at AllSooners.com from this game. 24, folks. Check it out, AllSooners.com. We got videos, we got highlights, we got interviews, we got the whole schmear because this game deserved it. 50-20. They hung a 50 burger on the Iowa State Cyclones. John Heacock hasn't had a whole lot of 50 burgers hung on him as Iowa State's defensive coordinator, and same for Matt Campbell since he's been at Iowa State, 8 years I think now. This was an impressive performance. A couple of early hitches for the Oklahoma defense. They got them solved, they got them figured out, and here they are. 5-0, undefeated going into Texas. Boys?
It was a weird start because the first series of the game, Billy Bowman hits the 44-yard pick six, and you're thinking, no look ahead, all that. And then Oklahoma allows 4 straight scoring possessions from Iowa State. Iowa State picks up a huge chunk of their yardage on those 4. And it wasn't just 4 possessions. It was stuff we hadn't seen this year, guys. It was busted. Like, we've seen a busted play here or there, but it was busted play after busted play. Really undisciplined run fits. You had guys taking each other out of the play. Key Lawrence looked like he was going for a pick and then ducked out of it, and it turns out to be a 51-yard score. Billy Bowman hits Gentry Williams, and suddenly someone's scampering down the side. It was all the weirdness that you hadn't seen out of Oklahoma's defense to this point. But in years past, that would have led to a full-blown Big 12 old-fashioned shootout. Instead, Oklahoma locked it down. And after the first 20 minutes of the game, Oklahoma played shutout football. It was a really, really strong defensive performance for the last 2/3 of the game, and plenty to build confidence on headed to the Cotton Bowl next week.
I think I said in the post-game wrap down on the field, the final 3.5 quarters, it was 2.5 quarters. 258 yards by Iowa State on those 4 possessions. 4 possessions, 258 yards, 20 points. After that, 0 points and 94 yards, guys. So I was getting text messages. Quinn Ewers is salivating right now. He's going to eat this defense alive. Yeah, it looked like it there for a little while, but they figured some things out. They got some things right, Randall.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, when OU came out in the second half, and really even in the second half of that second quarter, it felt like they just turned the faucet off for Iowa State. I mean, like you guys mentioned, there were some uncharacteristic mistakes, maybe, or uncharacteristic of this season, maybe more characteristic of what we've seen in the past from Oklahoma's defense. I saw social media was going crazy talking about that this is the same OU defense of the past. But I think where we really saw the difference is that a lot of past OU teams, when things got bad turned to worse, especially on defense. And I would say that tonight, it was very much the opposite. When things got bad, Oklahoma's defense buckled down, and they were able to, like you guys said, after that first 20-point, it was 21-20 at one point, and I remember sitting in the end zone thinking, well, maybe we have a game on our hands. I did not realize that this was going to be so tight, and from that moment on, Iowa State could do nothing. OU shut them down. OU's defense shut Iowa State's offense down. Rocco Becht couldn't get anything going. Obviously, you guys mentioned a few big plays through the air. I think it was literally 2 big plays through the air that set them up both times. There was a few big runs here and there where OU, missed some tackles, but all in all, after the first quarter, after those first 4 drives, Oklahoma's defense looks like it has the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that's what Brent Venables said was maybe the best part. The most encouraging part is they did screw up, they did trip, they did stumble, they did fall. They did give up a 67-yard touchdown and a 51-yard touchdown to Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. So you have those things, and then all of a sudden you have this, I don't know, switch that got flipped, this internal determination that this was not going to spiral out of control, that this was not going to turn into what we saw 4 or 5 different games last year, that those guys, they know what they're doing, and they were able to fix it, turn it around, stop the bleeding, and kind of dominate from that point forward. Now, the 2 touchdowns, you had 2 defensive backs, Oklahoma defensive backs kind of collide. You had another one where it looked like he was raising his hands to catch the ball. The guys were going after interceptions, and I said this, they came into tonight 8 interceptions in 4 games. That was ranked 2nd in the country. And I asked Danny Stutzman this question, hey, when you got that many interceptions on your ledger, you kind of take more risks? And he said, yeah, you got to risk it for the biscuit to get those interceptions. You got to take it, you got to put it out there and say, the ball's in the air, it belongs to us. Let's go get it. Ah, crap, we missed it, and the guy's going the other way. So there's an inherent risk with trying to get as many interceptions as they have. They now have 10 on the season. But defensive performance, man, Ryan, I can't say enough about it. I think I'd said too much just now, but maybe I can't say enough.
Yeah, it's just this was a different performance than what we've seen the rest of the year. They were still really good on 3rd and 4th down. I think that what we've talked about a couple of times, mainly the SMU game and the Cincinnati game, bad things not snowballing. There was that period against Tulsa where Cardell Williams comes in, they had to ratchet things back up. We just haven't seen Oklahoma defenses find a way to respond like this since 2011, maybe. It's been a very long time, and Oklahoma has done it in 3 of the 5 games. That's really encouraging. Now, Iowa State stinks. This is an awful football team that Oklahoma just played. That's an LOL, laugh out loud, bad football team. They might not win another Big 12 game. They got Oklahoma State. Congratulations. Quinn Ewers, if he has time, he'll be able to pick this secondary apart if they play like that at any point, and they might not be able to get that back because as much as Dylan Gabriel talks about being in momentum, it's not Emory Jones, it's not Rocco Becht, it's not Cardell Williams. That's a legitimate guy that's going to be out there. You can't afford to let him get into that kind of rhythm, but the fact that Oklahoma's coming back making plays on the football, even after the rocky period, Gentry Williams had that other interception, that's all good stuff, and you can't take that away from this group. But I think everyone knows the score next week. You got to play your best game of football, and that means that you can't have a 4-possession moment like that, or it's going to get a shootout. And as good as Dylan Gabriel's been, I'm not picking Dylan Gabriel in this Oklahoma offense to win a shootout against Texas.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough call, especially you're talking about a quarterback that's been graded as a first-round guy in Quinn Ewers, and he's got some really good receivers. We'll get into the Texas game a little more here in a minute, but I want to transition to the special teams before we get to offense. I want to transition to tonight's special teams efforts. Another block punt for Peyton Bowen. The kid's got something special, and they said that. The coaches told us that after the first block punt of the season, when he wasn't even supposed to be there, and he ran in there and blocked that punt anyway. This one, he basically took the ball off the punter's foot, could have caught it, could have strolled into the end zone. As it turned out, Trace Ford tried to dive on it, a little too much momentum, slung it around. Ball went out of bounds for a safety. Oklahoma gets the ball back, then comes down and kicks a field goal. So they got 5 points out of it. And then the field goal, I mentioned the field goal. Zach Schmidt makes 2 out of 3 field goals. His first miss of the 2023 season, it was a very makeable kick, 34 yards I think it was.
High leverage situation. What got him last year, but he rebounded.
Yes, he did. He rebounded. He made his next 2. So special teams, I thought you were down there on the field. Give us a sense of how fast things were moving, and the special teams that Oklahoma had tonight looked pretty successful.
Yeah, I mean, when Iowa State was I don't want to say dropping back, when they were lined up to punt, every time it felt like they were, especially after the punt block, but even before that, it felt like they were worried about, Oklahoma screaming off the edge up the middle. And, on that play that Peyton Bowen does get the punt block, I mean, there's multiple guys in the backfield. They obviously, I'm not saying they could have gotten it, but they could have got Trace Ford. Some of those other guys could have got close. I mean, I think the job that Jay Nunez has done specifically on punts, but in special teams in general, is very commendable. I think that it's a noticeable difference from what we've seen in years past on the punt block side of things. I do think on kickoffs, there's something. Zach Schmidt kicked one out of bounds. He kicked a weird line drive kick out of bounds tonight, which I don't really know what happened there because he obviously has the leg to kick it out the back of the end zone.
He's been kicking off great this year.
Yeah, I mean he usually puts it out the back of the end zone. It was really interesting. Maybe he just didn't get all of that one. I don't know. But aside from that, the one that he pushed out of bounds, the missed field goal, I thought OU special teams played really well. It's kind of interesting that Gavin Freeman hasn't been able to get going in the return game, especially after we saw what he could do in week one. Obviously, I think OU would love to get him going, but I think it was a really sound game from the special teams.
That 46-yarder by Schmidt made $5 for my man Ryan here. Sorry you weren't up here. I said because he missed the 36-yarder to start the game. And I said, he lines up for a 46-yarder, and I'm like, dude, if he makes this, I'll give you $5. Right down the middle. And I was like, here's your $5, Ryan. So that's how I am. I'm a man of my word. Put my money where my mouth is.
Well, and what better week than Iowa State week to have some nice little side wagers in the press box?
Was that even a wager?
Well, you were like, you didn't have to give me anything.
It was a declaration. I was like, I'm not betting you. I'm just going to give you $5.
It's nice in my pocket. I'm sure that I'll have the next AllSooners lunch, or I'll chip in. I'll get the tip next time.
And get the Cokes on Monday at the Coke machine. So you guys probably can tell by now, all three of us are pretty freaking sick. We're all three sneezing and coughing, and I barely made it through the press conference. He's down there sneezing on the field.
I wonder how all three of us got sick.
Yeah, well, I think I gave it to him, and then whatever he got in Cincinnati, I think he gave it back to me. And I haven't been around you that much, but here we are.
Stay away!
Ryan,
after this, stay away.
Ryan and I did stay in a hotel room in Cincinnati.
I forgot about that. I'm coughing because I'm laughing, and I'm laughing because I'm coughing. And it's 1:45 in the morning, and we still haven't talked about the offense. Dylan Gabriel was fantastic tonight.
What? We do have to have a little funeral here. The Jackson Arnold short yardage package needs to go away because Dylan Gabriel was more effective on 3 runs on the goal line against Iowa State than Jackson Arnold was at any point against SMU and any point against Tulsa.
Yep.
And that's not a shot at anybody.
Right.
It's just when the defense when the defense knows Jackson Arnold's going to line up and run the football, or hey, one of you needs to look for a weird pass, they play it a little bit differently. When Dylan Gabriel's able to do it within the flow of the game, and you see Dylan Gabriel, if you just watch his interviews and his press conferences, you see a guy that's calm, cool, collected. Moment doesn't seem too big. Then if you watch Dylan Gabriel truck a linebacker in the north end zone and then get up and give him some.
Give him a shoulder in the chest.
He basically said,
like,
after the game, he said his dad's a basketball coach, and what do you want to do? You always want an and one, right? And he's like, he basically said, I got a couple of and ones tonight. He was phenomenal in the run game. I thought he made great decisions. And then the little nitpick or the frustration that Oklahoma fans had coming out of last week's game in Cincinnati, he hit on all the deep balls. He did. Now, it was back to the Dylan Gabriel the first 3 weeks where he's hitting on the deep balls, and maybe there's 1 or 2 that you could have put a yard or 2 out in front, stuff like that. On the Brennan Thompson one, he said that was more just he didn't see him fast enough, and then that he needs to see him faster and get rid of the ball faster. But what Jeff Lebby had said about Dylan Gabriel through 3 weeks was he was giving guys a chance to go up and make plays. And you had Andrew Anthony not be the guy tonight. It was Jalil Farouk, Jaden Gibson, Brennan Thompson, and Nick Anderson. Those guys all went up and got big chunk plays over the top. That's the stuff Oklahoma has to do next week if they want to beat Texas.
I told Dylan Gabriel telepathically during the game, Dylan, I might have put it in the blog, Dylan, don't worry, go ahead and throw it as far as you can. You're not going to overthrow Brennan Thompson. That kid is a speed demon. Oh my God, he's fast. He's faster than fast, is what Brent Venables said.
10-1-800. I mean,
10-1-8 is his time. I asked him. He said he tells people 10-2 because he ran a lot of 10.2s, but 10.18 is his fastest time.
I mean,
bro, that's flying.
To run a lot of 10.2s is pretty impressive.
I know, right?
I would take one and retire.
I think honestly, most collegiate athletes would take 1:10.2. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
He ran track at Texas too, and said he fought through some injuries. He had a good interview tonight. He stuck around and talked to several of us for several minutes. So AllSooners.com is where you can find that interview, or my YouTube channel. But the wide receivers as a whole were fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and watching them down on the field, I mean, these guys, Jaden Gibson, obviously you could see it from the broadcast, but that physical. I mean, this is a guy who's not the thickest guy out there on the field, but obviously will not go down easily. He's gonna make you work for it every time you're bringing that guy down.
He said he's fighting to get in the end zone. Like, he's literally fighting guys, punching them, and he wants to hurt people to get in the end zone. You're not going to stop him inside the 10. Those are his words.
Which is, it's funny that like kind of tough guy demeanor comes out of him, because all the receivers say he's the biggest cheerleader in the receiver room. He's the biggest supporter of everyone. But I mean, he got his tonight. Nick Anderson with, I think, 2 catches. One of them was the deep 39-yard touchdown. For a guy who's 6'4", 210 pounds, true redshirt freshman, to move as well as he does, I mean, it just not a lot of receivers that look like that and move that well. Drake Stoops obviously did his thing. You know what we're used to seeing Drake Stoops do. You know, eat underneath and get those hard yards. You know, short touchdowns. Kind of be. It's going to sound very stereotypical, but the security blanket. I mean, that really is what he is.
He got knocked around a little bit today too.
Yeah,
tough dude.
Yep. That's his MO. And I mean, like you said, Farouk, Brennan Thompson catching those deep balls. I mean, I think both of those you could say maybe were underthrown, but like Ryan mentioned, DG giving those guys a chance to even get the ball. I mean, I think Jalil Farouk's catch might have been a pass interference call as well. So even if Farouk isn't able to come down with the ball, it's still turning into a positive play. I mean, these guys are getting open. We thought that the receivers coming into the year would be the weak point of this offense. I mean, honestly, they've probably been the strongest position group on the offense. I mean, when you look at what a guy like Nick Anderson has given you as a redshirt freshman, a guy like, I mean, you're throwing in guys like Brennan Thompson who haven't caught a pass all year, and first catch of the season, 54 yards?
Yep. Like
Ryan mentioned, Andrell Anthony, who has been the team's #1 receiver, had a great season. I mean, did he catch a pass tonight?
1 catch for 16 yards.
Exactly. I mean, so even on an off night from the #1 guy, the rest of the receiver room still looks great, picks up the slack, and I think that going forward, the Sooners have to utilize the receivers, have to use those guys to attack opposing defenses, because that's the best skill position players they have right now.
Best thing is we get to see Brennan Thompson go against Texas. He played at Texas last year, caught like 1 pass for 32 yards against Oklahoma State. He explained, and check it out on the video at AllSooners.com, he explained why he went to Texas instead of OU and why in the transfer portal he chose OU from Texas. The move that he did to get back to the football was straight out of Maverick. Was straight out of Tom Cruise's F-18, man. He was like, oh, you're catching me? Okay, well, I'm going to slow down. You guys are going to go past me. I'm going to catch this football. Big time move.
Do you think he'll keep up any international relations with the 50? They were inverted. No, you saw, too, that it wasn't just the deep shot they took. Jeff Lebby then comes back in the second half, and you see him trying to get him some swing passes out of the backfield, trying to get that thing going. So it'll be really interesting to see how Oklahoma uses those guys next week. I really think that they should just sit back and let Dylan Gabriel throw. If the offensive line is going to protect like they did today against a really good Iowa State defensive line, really well coached. Maybe it doesn't have the talent they've had in years past. There's not like a Will McDonald in that group. Still really well coached. And the running game, they gave them enough today. It was fine. Marcus Major got into a little bit of a rhythm. We saw Gavin Sawchuk and Tawi Walker. Brent Venables said after the game that Javonte Barnes just isn't 100% healthy. Sounds like he's not fully recovered from that foot procedure that he underwent kind of mid to late spring. And so it was interesting. I thought that, though Brent Venables said on Tuesday it's hard to get 4 guys in, if Javonte Barnes was healthy and available, I think they would have been able to get those 4 guys in, though no one really dominate or establish themselves. But if Oklahoma can get that 3.8 yards per carry next week in the Cotton Bowl, they'll be fine as long as Dylan Gabriel's not turning over the football, because it's hard to understate what Emmett Jones has done with this group. And real quick, too, I do think we should highlight, for as much as we talk about nitpicking, underthrows, things like that, the ball to Nick Anderson was perfect.
Yeah, it was probably best throw of the year.
Yeah.
One of Dylan Gabriel's best throws at OU, and just to quickly mention the running backs, Tommy Walker popped one for 60 yards that got called back there at the end of the game.
By holding.
And right, by a holding call on the receiver. So
JJ Hester, no less. Welcome back, JJ Hester. Let the guy go.
I just thought that's interesting. It would be interesting to see what the yards per carry and the total rushing numbers look like with that added on.
Yeah, Marcus Major averaged 3.5, Gavin Sawchuk averaged 2.9, and Tawee Walker 4.2. So that's not very productive. Dylan Gabriel led the way with all runners with 4.6 yards per carry. That's not what you're after. You would hope that 5 games into the season that they would have that figured out. On the eve of the Texas game, still not.
We were talking down on the field, about how many runs of 20 plus yards, 30 plus yards can we remember from this team this season? I mean, obviously Tawee Walker has one long run down the sideline against SMU. Tawee Walker again pops one tonight that did get called back, but it really just makes me think. I mean, I feel like every time we're watching an OU running back in this year's specific offense break tackles, make positive plays, it feels like Tawee Walker's doing that more than the other guys in the backfield. I just think that's interesting.
I can tell you, it's Tawee Walker's 30-yarder. Marcus Major's longest run this year was the 2 19-yarders from last week in Cincinnati, and nobody else has gotten close. So Major had an 18-yard run tonight. Walker had that 60-yard run. He got ran down by the Iowa State defense. Holding, not holding. Yeah. That's not gonna fly next week. He's not gonna bust off more than a 30-yard run. Best case scenario.
Let's talk about next week and how this game this week for both Oklahoma and Texas could have been a prime look-ahead spot, a prime trap game for Oklahoma, Iowa State, and for Texas at home against Kansas. You look at the halftime of the Texas game, they're up 13-7 against Kansas. They end up winning 40-14. This game was 21-20. Oklahoma ends up putting their foot down and wins 50-20. Opportunity was there for both teams to look ahead.
And I think that maybe initially it was a little cagey at first, but I think you saw, as has been the case for Oklahoma all year long, they've just been overwhelming talent to pull away and good coaching adjustments. I think you've seen that from Texas as well. Texas has also been really good in second halves and in fourth quarters this year. That's the sign of 2 squads that are in their second and third years, respectively, in their specific systems.
Able to go coaches, all that.
Yeah, make those adjustments at halftime, all that stuff. And who would have thought in the little old Big 12 that it's this little upstart Oklahoma program and a Texas squad that never has any talent or anything like that. Those are the last 2 undefeated teams in the Big 12. Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? Brett Yormark and his merry little band of Big 12 presidents and chancellors not happy, I'm sure. Listen.
Did you see the Yormark curse continue today?
No, did it?
So he was on hand for Texas Tech to get their
that's right.
It's 2 a.m. to get beat by Oregon. He was on hand for Baylor to get pantsed by Texas State week 1. He was in Cincinnati last week, and Baylor back from the dead. He was in Orlando. Brett Yormark. Yormark does not need to show up in Dallas next weekend. I think Greg Sankey should come to the game.
That's a good idea.
You mentioned Texas Tech. We got a Joey McGuire. I think it was last year, maybe before the year, said the Big 12 runs through Lubbock. Well, today before the game, we got Bob Stoops saying the Big 12 runs through Norman.
Yep.
Joey McGuire's wrong. Joey McGuire's an idiot.
Joey McGuire could not be further from the truth. When has the Big 12 ever run through Lubbock? You're from Lubbock, you should know.
I do know. At least not while I was there, it never ran through Lubbock.
Maybe in baseball year or 2.
Women's basketball.
Track and field?
Track and field.
It's a joke of an athletic department for all the money in the bank.
This game is going to be good. Ryan, give us the numbers. First time since 2011 that both teams are undefeated. Is that right?
Yeah, first time since 2011 both teams are undefeated. First time since 2019 that's a top 15 matchup. That was when Texas was coming off the close loss to the Joe Burrow LSU squad, they hadn't fallen out. I don't think that enough happened in front of Oklahoma for OU to jump into the top 10 in the AP poll.
They're number 14 right now.
Yeah, if it had, it would have been the first time since 2008 that it was a top 10 matchup. That obviously was a absolute heavyweight brawl. College game day is going to be on hand.
How about that?
That was announced pretty quickly. It sounds like game day's efforting Baker Mayfield to make an appearance as the Bucs are off next week. I would not be stunned at all if Baker Mayfield's your guest picker. And boys, it hasn't felt like this in a long time going into OU Texas, and that's why I think. Look, we talked about this on Wednesday on the morning show. Eddie and I spent just as much time talking about Texas as we did about Iowa State, and our message was, please, for the love of God, take care of business in Norman, take care of business in Austin. Both teams held up their end of the bargain. Let's brawl.
It was an interesting Saturday, Randall, because both teams kind of stumbled early with their opponents, but they both pulled away late. Like Ryan said, they showed halftime adjustments. I thought they showed superior conditioning. We're talking about another year under the strength coach, Jerry Schmidt, in Oklahoma's case. Just overall, what did you notice from the way Oklahoma was able to pull away in the second half today?
Yeah, I mean, they...
Fitness, conditioning, all that good stuff. Because it was
Yes.
hot starting the game.
So, again, to mention that, I'm going to call back to a phrase that we've heard a million times already, competitive depth. I mean, these guys... OU's rotating tons of guys in on the defensive line. I mean, the secondary, we're seeing Reggie Pearson, Key Lawrence, Peyton Bowen, Billy Bowman. I mean, all sorts of guys are getting run in the secondary. Again, Makari Vickers played some today. Josiah Wagner was getting in at cornerback. I mean, the rotation really keeps these guys from getting fatigued. And I mean, when the defenders, are in the game, the defensive backs, the up front, they're fresh and it shows. They're playing really well. I mean, Stutzman and Kanik, they're obviously the main two linebackers. I think that they're pretty well ahead of the rest of that linebacking core, so they play the overwhelming majority of snaps there. But, I mean, really the defensive line, the secondary, it feels like every drive they're rotating guys in. And, I mean, the defensive line, every few plays it feels like guys are getting rotated in and out. Kind of going with the formation. But defensive backs, we saw a bunch of guys play, and they played really well. I thought that Gentry Williams throughout the game had a solid game, and I thought that obviously he had the interception. He had I think at least one tackle for loss, a few around the line of scrimmage, and I mean, just there was never. Being down on the field, OU's sideline never felt dead or. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Unenergized. Like a lot of times you see if a team is up big or they should be up big and they're not, or a team comes back on them, then the sideline kind of starts to die. The energy goes away. That never happened with OU's sideline. You saw Venables rally the troops when Iowa State got it close. There was no panic. He brought the team in the huddle. I can't pretend to know what he was saying, but. He, brought the team in the huddle. It seemed like they were calm. It seemed like he gave them a message where the gist was, "You're fine. Go out and play your brand of football." And from then on, that's what Oklahoma did.
I think we're all looking ahead to next week. I think we're all now that the game is here, now that both teams are undefeated, 5-0. We're all sitting here coughing, of course, and sleepy, of course, but we are pretty stoked about Oklahoma, Texas next week. I'll read you guys a couple numbers from this Iowa State game. Last game they'll ever play in conference play against Iowa State.
Needs to be the last game ever.
Needs to be the
I'm
last
done
game
with this. It's the most lopsided series in Power 5 football.
That's where I'm going.
It doesn't need to play ever
80
again.
of the 89 games played in history between these two teams, 80 of them have been won by Oklahoma. That's 91%. That's the highest winning percentage of any Power 5 team against any other Power 5 team in games they've played more than 50 times. So OU is, this one looked like one of those old school ass kickings.
Yeah.
It just did. There for about a quarter and a third, a quarter and a quarter, quarter and a half. Iowa State was confounding things a little bit for this Oklahoma defense that has now given up 5 touchdowns in 5 games. So maybe Quinn Ewers is licking his chops a little bit. Maybe he's a little bit concerned as well that, this Oklahoma defense could be for real. We'll see.
Was it Barry Switzer that said there are no Iowa States in the NFL? Matt Campbell has brought that program back to it's a bye week unless you're an incompetent football team like Oklahoma State.
That's a mean thing to say.
That's true.
You took like 3 shots at three different people.
Well, the Big 12 stinks. It's really bad.
Big 12's not good this year. Sorry, Brett Yormark. It's just not.
Don't worry. Colorado's coming through. They can't run a 2-minute drill.
Yeah, I think that.
This is why we don't podcast after dark. I get mean.
I think one other thing is how big of a win this could be for Oklahoma if they're able to, obviously beat the Longhorns. Now that we'll talk much more about that as the week goes on, but I mean, just thinking about it initially, Texas is right now top 3. I can't imagine that they would slide any further after a 40-14 victory over a ranked team. And so, aside from the rivalry game, when was the last time that Oklahoma went out and beat a top 3 team? Now, I mean, that would be a huge win.
We'll have to look that one up.
So Ohio State 2017.
Yeah, I think that's right. Were they number 3 or 4, something like that?
So I mean, not only to get that win, but we repeatedly said coming into the year, I mean, we're saying it now, Big 12 is terrible. OU's schedule is really weak. I mean, one of the other better Big 12 teams, Kansas State, not even on OU's schedule. Texas Tech, again, they don't look great, but this is a team that last year beat OU, not on the schedule this year. And so without those, with the lack of marquee matchups, winning this game for Oklahoma would be huge.
Bottom line is Oklahoma, as Brent Venables said a couple of times during his post-game press conference tonight, they've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
What they're going to see next week against Texas and those wide receivers, Whittington, and Xavier Worthy, and JT Sanders.
A.D. Mitchell.
Donnie Mitchell. I heard Sanders rolled his ankle today.
Yeah, some things to look for. Texas' offensive line has been a tinge banged up. Jatavian Sanders rolled his ankle, and Texas has played a couple of backup quarterbacks here in a row, and so it's not close with Jalen Daniels not giving it a go today in Austin. Dylan Gabriel is by far the best quarterback Texas will have played this season. So as much as
stay healthy in practice.
Yes, needs to stay healthy in practice. But as much as we're laser focused on Oklahoma and the questions that we cover from our end of things,
right,
is the Oklahoma defense for real, stuff like that. Texas has not seen a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel because of what Milrose bringing to the table and some backups plus the schedule. So as much as this is a test for Oklahoma, it'll be a huge test for Texas' defense. But all the onus of anything is on Oklahoma because they're the ones that got wiped out 49-0 last year.
Yep,
Right.
and that came up several times during the post-game press conferences or the post-game interviews. 49-0. Guys are looking forward to it. Danny Stutzman, Dylan Gabriel, who didn't even play in that game. Guys were talking about it. Brendan Thompson said, "Hey, man, it was great for me. I had a fun time." Because he was playing for Texas at the time. But there are guys that are and have been focused. You ask them and they say, "Yeah, sure, of course it's circled on the calendar, but it's just another game. It's just another game." Like Brent Venables said, they've got a lot of work to do. Those guys are going to be if they have plays next week like they had tonight, Texas is going to do what Iowa State did, and that's turn them into touchdowns.
Yeah.
Anything you guys want to finish with?
I think Jaden Gibson was the one that said he's been trying not to think about this game for 2 weeks. They're human beings. We had heard that there was a bad defensive practice this week and that it was maybe an eyeball ahead. Well, maybe that showed up a little bit. There should be no practices. There should be no low energy. All the motivation you need, whether it's new guys that didn't experience that taste of defeat last year, played in your first OU Texas, college game day, all that stuff. Danny Stutzman, who was on the field for that embarrassment last year. Dylan Gabriel, who had to just watch it helplessly from the sideline. There will be no excuses for anything this weekend. And boys, it's here. It's Christmas in October.
Yep.
I have one more thing. Your boy Stogner, one more catch tonight. one step closer.
Inching closer,
to
baby.
the road to 40. No, but seriously, I think Ryan hit the nail on the head. This is going to be, not only is it OU Texas, it's even bigger than usual given the ranking, and also OU and Texas are, maybe this is them painting themselves, but I think that there's an element of this aspect throughout the conference that OU and Texas are seen as kind of the outcasts now that they're leaving, following this year. So I think that that makes this game even more interesting.
Stogner was my under-the-radar pick today because Devon Mitchell was out here on his visit. I was predicting that they were going to try to feed Stogner the ball. I predicted like 16 catches for Stogner tonight because they were going to show Mitchell, hey, here's how we do tight ends. Mitchell was out here going, "Coach, Put me in right now. I'll go score a touchdown.
Maybe they showed him film of Braden Willis last year and said, "Hey, if you come to OU, you can even play quarterback."
That's right.
It's the they showed transfers in the portal defensively Clemson tape. They showed Braden Willis tape. So it should be fun. And here's the biggest thing that's going to come from next weekend. 2 teams will walk in, 1 team will walk out, and that team will control their destiny to the college football playoff.
100%.
That's the spot that these 2 teams are in. That's the spot this conference is in. Whoever loses that game should get another crack at it in Arlington based off of a 5-week body of work. But whoever wins that game, they will be in the top 4. Not that it matters what the first college football playoff ranking is, but whoever wins that game is just going to be simple. You tick off wins, and you'll be headed to the college football playoff.
If Texas wins that game, there's a real shot that they're ranked number 1 in the first college football playoff.
That's 2 really good wins, Alabama and Oklahoma.
Right. I mean, and what is Georgia? What is some of the other teams put together?
Yep.
That's better than that.
It's worth watching, folks. 11 a.m. College game day is going to be there. So what is that, 8 a.m.? They start at 8 a.m. now?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yes.
That's before I can get up on a Saturday, trust me.
We'll be walking into the State Fair of Texas about when college game day fires.
So if you've got a good drunk going on, you want to meet us at the gate at 8 a.m. That's where we'll be from your Friday night partying, I guess. Friday night, having a good time.
We do accept Texas State Fair coupons though, because here's the drill for us. Get to the press box, throw our crap down, leave the press box as soon as possible so we can get some Fletchers.
Time for some corny dogs. You down for corny dogs?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Let's ride.
Corny dogs it is. 11 a.m. Saturday, college game day. We'll be there. Of course, the 3 of us will be. We'll have it covered remotely as well. We've got guys like Tim and Ross who are going to help us cover it like they did today. With, like I said, 24 pieces of content on the website tonight, guys. For a 6 p.m. start was pretty damn impressive. So we'll have more of that because it's an 11 a.m. game. And it's OU Texas. It's the college football premier rivalry in the entire sport, in my opinion. Anybody got anything else to you want to argue with me about that?
No.
Ohio State, Michigan's pretty good.
The Iron
Alabama, Auburn is pretty good. I'm taking OU Texas, and a lot of it is the way they split the stadium, State Fair, all that stuff. The smells, the aromas, the sounds, all that stuff.
Give me some big text. Give me some big text action. So,
Yep.
Hey, you mentioned 24 pieces of content. Don't stop there. By the time you listen to this, 6 a.m., our Dylan Gabriel story is going to hit the site, AllSooners.com, what he had to say about that experience last year and everything that he went through and how he really embraced a different mentality this offseason to prepare
really good
him.
tonight, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was my favorite probably 13 minutes we've had of Dylan Gabriel since he's been in Oklahoma. 10 a.m. we'll have another story on the defense and what they did to get things ratcheted up. So the content overfloweth. We'll have our poll report whenever those drop. Times are relative. It's like 1 p.m. I think, but it'll all be there as you unwind on your NFL Sunday and get ready for some OU Texas action.
And as you guys know, it'll be posted all throughout the week. We're going to be back here on Monday. We're going to be back here on Monday and Tuesday. Coaches, press conferences, coach interviews, player interviews after practice. We're going to have it all covered all week at All Sooners. Did you have another finisher?
I was going to say, poll report will be up in less than 12 hours from the time we're recording this.
Hoove needs sleep. Hoove needs a 2-hour drive home and then some sleep. So you guys got the morning stuff. That's it. I got nothing else. Appreciate you guys watching as always. It is now 2:10 a.m. and we are leaving the press box. None too soon. For Ryan, for Randall, I'm Hoover. See you guys.